to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the...
we both did it at the same time. Oh, look at that. See, we didn't prep. I was looking at my work. You were looking at your work. And we couldn't do a simple intro. How unprofessional do you think that is for the listeners?
I think it just shows how excited we are to talk about this.
Do you reckon?
No, it's just us being completely unprepared.
Well, if you are still tuning in, why?
Do you know what, Blake? Should we start again?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, we have to live in this shit that we've created.
Right. Okay.
We've created this mess, and we're going to die in it. Welcome to the MMA Fan Show.
Hello.
I am Blake Harrison. Joining me as always is Stuart Fun.
You all right?
You good? Yeah, fine.
Yeah. I'm all right. Well, look, we are here today to discuss UFC 316, but before we do, we need to thank our sponsor, and our sponsor is Fat Candy. They do freeze-dried sweets, and we urge you to go and treat yourself to some goodies. And while you're over on the Fat Candy website and you load up your little basket with all them sweetie treats, use the discount code SWEETMMA and you will save yourself some pennies. Also, did you see that email from GamCare?
I did. We haven't spoken about this.
No, we should.
Let's talk about this. So, if you listen to last week's show, it was last week's, wasn't it?
It was.
We mentioned GamCare, who we partnered with a while ago. They're not a sponsor because they don't obviously pay us or anything because they are a charitable organisation. So, but we wanted to do a little shout out for them. We both have our own reasons why we wanted to connect with GamCare, who are a charity that help people with gambling problems and gambling addictions, and not just people that suffer with it, but their families, their friends as well, who it also affects. We haven't shouted them out for a long, long time. We've been doing studio stuff, and then I've been away with work. And to be honest, it's our fault, but it sort of just fell by the wayside a little bit. And last week, for whatever reason, we mentioned GamCare again at the start of the show, and we had an email, a lovely, lovely email from the people at GamCare, basically saying to us, firstly, thank you. We've got an avid listener who works in the office and everything, but also they've had more people get in touch through that shout out than what they would have expected to have had if we hadn't shouted them out, basically. So they were really grateful to us for shouting them out. And because clearly some of our listeners are people that may be struggling with gambling, or maybe, as we said, family members or friends of people that are struggling with gambling, we thought maybe we need to bring this back and talk about GamCare a little bit more. So, again, as you've seen from the intro, we didn't prep today enough because we've literally both said this. So I don't know if you want to quickly get up some of the details, and I'll just chat about a couple of random things with GamCare. But go on.
I mean, it's really straightforward. In the show notes, wherever you listen to this, if you go in the show notes, there's a big bio on what we're doing with GamCare, and there's also the web link. So you can just click it and you can go straight through to GamCare, and there's a little pop-up chat on there, and you can literally anonymously drop them a little message and start that journey to recovery.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing thing that they do. They also offer, like, if you want them, therapy sessions for free as well, for people with gambling problems. But again, not just people with the problems. And I know I keep harping on about this, but someone with a gambling addiction, if they don't want to get help, it can still massively affect the friends and family of the person that's suffering with a gambling addiction. So there's therapy sessions for people out there as well. They can go and talk to someone and try and get some help and unburden themselves with the problems that are going on. Gambling addiction is a terrible thing. It can really, really ruin lives. People go from those gambling websites to then not having enough money to pay rent or do what they needed to with that money. They go for payday loans and all this kind of stuff. And they can find themselves in thousands and thousands of pounds worth of debt and be in a really, really dire situation, both financially and with their mental health as well. It can massively affect them. So we urge anyone, if you are struggling or think maybe you might have a problem with gambling, or as I said, if you're a friend or family member of someone that is suffering with that, and maybe they don't want to get help, but you need support, GamCare can be there for you. And as Stu said, if you go into the show notes, you click where you get this podcast, and you just scroll down and you see all the notes about the show, we've got some GamCare stuff in there. So yeah, please look them up, or just quickly Google them now. GamCare, GAMCARE, and hopefully you can get any of the help that you need.
Okay, UFC 316 went down last weekend, and today we will be discussing the outcomes of essentially the main card and the implications that can have on their relevant divisions. Shall we start at the top with Merab versus Suga?
Yeah, but I think also I'd like to say that, like, I was a little bit down on this card. Like, I wasn't overly excited about this card as a whole. We said last week, yes, there are some fights that will be fun fights on the night and in the cage, but there's not much at stake.
Yeah.
Some of those fights actually really delivered, and they were really fun to watch. And what massively helped this card, I think, were the two finishes in the co-main and the main event. Because those fights, stylistically, could have been 5 rounds of lackluster grappling. Because we have seen that before, particularly from Merab, all due respect to him, phenomenal champion, great win streak, all these things, but he's not always the most exciting fighter to watch. And and that could have happened, but that wasn't the case. So this card actually, I think, really over-delivered, and we should be thankful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a fight on the main card that did not deliver. We'll talk about that. But right, so I want to talk about where my head was as in the sort of the final sort of day leading up to the event, watching all the embeddeds and watching the press conferences and that, and then to the point where I was watching the walkout, where for me I was starting to think, I think Suga might pull something off here, because he looked laser focused, like he looked completely in the zone, and Merab was all over the place, like just like as he was doing the walkout, like he was just preoccupied with who was in the crowd. He was like having the best time, and he was stopping and looking at people. Even when he got in the octagon, he's looking through the cage to see who's there, and it was like, is he got his eye on the prize here? Like, where's he at? Is he just like caught up in the hysteria of this? Because on the other side of the octagon is a guy that he's locked in. But fuck me, like the minute that buzzer went, he was locked in and looked fucking phenomenal, I thought.
It looked really good. I actually thought Sean looked decent for the first round and a bit, or like I felt like he did better at keeping the fight on the feet for longer. Yes, he got taken down, but he did get back up a little bit.
I thought he was getting outstruck.
I think there were moments where Merab did. Yeah, I mean, I gave Merab every round. In fairness, I was just saying I felt like Sean didn't look like he was getting completely dominated or anything until we got to that third round. But I did think that Merab was actually really improved his striking, and Sean had improved his takedown defense.
Massively.
But I feel like something happened in that third round, though, where, I don't know, man, like Sean was getting taken down up against the fence. And this is maybe a minute or so before the choke happened or whatever it was. He was getting taken down up against the fence. And he looked gassed already. This was like early in the third round or something. He was really breathing heavily through his mouth. And I was just looking at him going, oh, Sean's fucked. Like, he's not even halfway through the fight. And he looks very tired. And he looks almost resigned to the fact that, like, I just can't do anything with this guy. I can't get him off me. And from that point, I was just like, well, this is game over then. I wasn't necessarily expecting the finish because Merab isn't someone that typically gets a finish. But, I mean, the way he did it was great. I mean, I don't even know what it was. Was it a north-south choke? It wasn't quite a guillotine. It wasn't quite a... Yeah, it wasn't quite a dance or anything, was it? But But yeah, phenomenal stuff from Merab. I mean, yeah, as I say, looked absolutely great. I don't feel like there's a huge amount to say about the fight itself, other than Merab looked really good. How does someone beat him? Like, that's all there is. But I feel like there's more to talk about in terms of like the aftermath of this fight for both fighters, for Sean and for Merab. I'm really interested in what is next for both of them. And we sort of know already what is next for Merab based on the fact that they showed Corey Sandhagen in the crowd, the fact that Joe Rogan mentioned Corey, and the fact that in the press conference after the fight, Dana White had basically, without exactly saying it, he sort of said Corey's next, because Dana mentions Umar as like an interesting fight for Merab going forward again, like in the rematch. And someone said, oh, what, would you see that happening before Corey then? And Dana was like, oh, no. So it makes it seem like Merab v Corey is what's happening next. So how excited are you for that fight? Mm-hmm. And do you think Corey has a good chance of beating him or not?
You know, we're all big fans of former guest of the show, Corey Sandhagen. And do I think he can beat Merab at the moment? No, I don't. I think Merab is just looking absolutely unstoppable at the moment. And he seems to be getting better. Whereas I'd prefer, as we've spoken about on previous shows, I think O'Malley versus Sandhagen's a much more fun fight to watch. I think that will be more exciting stand-up. But obviously we're not going to get that. So, you know, I mean, I've watched some videos of Merab talking to Sandhagen backstage, you know, after the event. It very much seems like, yeah, that makes sense. And
I haven't seen any of that. So what went down? Was it very friendly? Was it how
really
was it?
friendly? Really friendly. Like, completely respectful and just saying, like, you know, I mean, Merab's a pretty nice guy, isn't he? He seems, you know, he just looks like he's excited all the time to be there. And Sandhagen, who's generally got that silent assassin vibe about him, was super animated and was like, yeah, cool, let's do it. And it was all very good. And I'm you know, I'm glad to see Corey get that chance. O'Malley, I don't know what's next.
Let's wait. Let's focus on Merab for a little bit, because I feel like if anyone can do it, maybe Sandhagen can do it.
How does he do it?
Well, that's the interesting. Like, the thing is, you know what Merab's going to bring. Like, there's no secret to what Merab's going to bring. It's just a bit like with Khabib in a different way. You knew what Khabib was going to bring to the table, but you just couldn't stop him. You know what Merab's going to bring to the table. So far, no one can stop him. But I feel like Sandhagen he's got that length and range that Sean O'Malley's got. He doesn't necessarily have the power, but he has got that unique striking style that we haven't seen for a while, but he has got that spinning wheel kick knockout of Marlon Moraes. He has got that amazing flying knee of Frankie Edgar. And I tell you what, Merab's going to have to be wary of that, because he's going to shoot in for takedowns, and Sandhagen can throw those knees. But what Sandhagen has got that Sean O'Malley, someone like Sean O'Malley, doesn't have, is Sandhagen is really well-rounded on it and improved his ground game massively. And the fact that he's working with Ryan Hall, and even we saw in that Davison-Figueiredo fight, for people that are maybe not as knowledgeable, that wasn't just a freak incident. Like, Sandhagen has put out videos on his Instagram, which, by the way, is brilliant at the moment. Sandhagen's got some really funny videos on his Instagram.
Sorry, that's what they were talking about. They were saying, like, Merab was saying, we're going to have a YouTube battle because we both like making like funny videos. That's what they were talking about as well.
And do you know what? I am so here for that kind of a lead up to a fight. If they're just actually having a laugh with each other and putting out videos, bit of banter, but all respectful, but still taking the piss, I am so here for that more than the trash talky stuff that we sometimes get from these people that aren't great at trash talk a lot of the time. So I would love to see that. And I think that Sandhagen working with Ryan Hall, talking about that Figueiredo situation and how when you're in that 50-50 position, when you're going for leg locks and stuff like that, if you move like this and I just lean up a little bit, your knee's going to pop. And he was like, that was not an accident. I saw what he was doing. I was like, well, I'll just lean this way. Surely you won't stay there. Figueiredo stayed there and he was like, okay. So he just popped his knee. And it was just like, Merab's not necessarily going to get into that position. Merab's obviously a very good grappler, very top-heavy wrestler, all that stuff. I can see Sandhagen being able to scramble really well, put Merab in slightly awkward situations on the ground. And then on top of that, Sandhagen is a phenomenal striker. Doesn't maybe have the one-punch knockout power of a Sean O'Malley, but he is good. The other thing that you've got to think with Sandhagen, I might be wrong here, so I might need correcting, but am I right in thinking that Sandhagen is from somewhere like Colorado?
I believe so.
That's altitude, right? Like Colorado, as far as I'm aware, is like you'd be training at altitude. So in terms of keeping up with Merab's pace and his cardio, that is something that Sandhagen might be able to do. Now, I'm not saying he's going to get to Merab's level, but if he can stay on point for longer than most other fighters, like we've seen Sean O'Malley, as far as I was concerned, before the halfway point in the fight, Sean O'Malley is blowing. I don't know that Sandhagen would be. I think Sandhagen would be able to maintain a pace and a cardio for a long period of time. Again, I'm not saying it would be Merab long, but I think he'd be able to do it. And I just think he's so well-rounded. I think he's, other than maybe Umar again, because Umar did give Merab a tough fight until towards the end when he gassed out. Yeah, I think there's a world in which Sandhagen can do it. Basically, in the lead up to this fight with Sean O'Malley, I was thinking to myself, it's just going to be the same, isn't it? And it was. It was basically the same, even better for Merab than last time. With the Sandhagen fight, I'm like, yeah, Sandhagen could do it. Merab's probably the favourite. And Merab has got all the momentum and, he's just an absolute beast. Maybe you'd be a fool to pick against Merab at this point. But I wouldn't be totally shocked if Sandhagen went in there and beat him.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the end of my rant. I expected you to come back with something, but no.
No, it's all very plausible what you're saying, and I would love to see Corey Sandhagen have that strap around his waist. I'm a big fan, and to be honest, there is no other fight at the moment. I think had we have seen something a bit more exciting further down the card, maybe we'll get to that.
Yeah,
but okay then. So in regards to O'Malley. Where does this leave Sugar? Are we thinking he's going to move about in weight, or do you think?
Well, this is the big question, isn't it? What do you do if you're O'Malley? Can we see O'Malley doing a Max Holloway / Robert Whittaker and staying at the weight class, putting together 3-4 wins, and then making sure he earns another title shot? I'm not sure if I can see that.
But look, one of them people
Having said
would have to be Nurmagomedov, and that ain't going to happen, is it?
Well, you never know. But no, I don't think O'Malley would favour well against Umar. But
no chance.
But the thing is that let's say Corey Sandhagen does beat Merab, and I think that fight happens before the end of the year. If you're Sean O'Malley, the UFC loves you. You are a big star. You are a former champion. If you just get one win or two, definitely, you could probably walk straight back into a title shot. So if I was O'Malley, I think right now, as much as there's a world for him at 145, but he's not a massive 35er. He's tall, but he's not dense or anything.
I thought he looked thicker.
Yeah, maybe. But I still, if you were to put Sean O'Malley up against Movsar Evloev, or Diego Lopez, or Arnold Allen, I think he'd be obviously he'd be taller than them, a lot of them, but I think he'd really struggle in the grappling exchanges because I think he'd just be too light, too weak in those exchanges with a true 145er. So I think at the moment, the best thing for him to do is just take a fight at 35 and see what happens with Sandhagen Merab. Because as soon as Merab loses that belt, Sean O'Malley is back towards the top of the list if he's won 1 or 2. Because he's someone the UFC want to give a title shot to. So if you're matchmaking for him at 135, I've got 2 people I'd like to see him against right now.
Go for it.
And that's either Petr Yan in a rematch because their first fight was very close, or Henry Cejudo. I think either of those fights would be good for Sean
chatting
O'Malley.
shit already, isn't he? Cejudo
I haven't seen that, but
yeah, he made some dig already. Yeah, he was chapping off this morning, but I didn't really read it because.
But that's 2 big names, 2 former champs. I mean, that is a huge featured bout on a pay-per-view. Sean O'Malley versus Henry Cejudo.
Do people give a shit about Cejudo?
Fight night. I think enough. Yeah, I think enough to go, I know who that is. I know he's a former champ. I know he will talk up a fight. And I think Sean O'Malley might go, I've got history with him because we've had like slight beef in the past and stuff. That's probably a really good fight for Sean O'Malley.
So you don't think that with Merab obviously fighting Corey, who's next? Who are the fighters behind him? Umar and O'Malley. Do you think the UFC keep him away from Umar?
I don't see why you would do the Umar fight right now. I mean, you could, but I would say both of them are viable options for future title fights, especially if Merab is not the champion. So I would keep them away from each other right now. I think O'Malley could do with a step back. And if you're the UFC, you want a guy like O'Malley to be winning. It helps your business. So I would say give him Henry Cejudo. The Yan fight is tough because Yan's been on such a good streak. And I think maybe Henry Cejudo's a better fight. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think it would be a fight that people could get very excited for. If you've got a press conference going on, and you've got 2 title fights in the main and co-main, and then you add Henry Cejudo versus Sean O'Malley in a press conference and all that stuff, I think people are very interested, and I think they're getting a lot of headlines, and I think that is boosting that pay-per-view. Whoever's the champion of a pay-per-view with Sean O'Malley versus Henry Cejudo as the featured bout, I think is rubbing their hands together, thinking, "Oh, that's a few extra shekels in the old pocket." So yeah, I think that's a good one. Do you have anyone in mind, other than that, do you think he could fight at 135? Or if he were to move up to 145, who would be his featherweight debut fight for you?
I don't think he'll move up. Just because I think, to pretty much echo what you said, I don't think he'll be like thick enough. I think he's like you say, when you start getting them more sort of built fighters, I just don't see it working well for him. I don't know. I mean, I'd quite like to see the Petr Yan fight. I think that'd be interesting. He's booked though, isn't he? If I'm not mistaken.
Oh, Yan?
Yeah, has he got a fight booked? I'm sure in that video that I saw.
I'm finding it now, so hold the line, callers. He's against Marcus McGee. Oh, yeah. Rumoured. Right. It's not confirmed.
Well, Thingy basically
Marcus
said
McGee.
That's what, when he was chatting to Merab, I'm sure Merab also mentioned about, was it in a press conference Merab mentioned that Petr Yan has got something lined up?
Well, yeah, but if that's not... Petr Yan's probably seen something on Instagram. Merab's probably seen something on Instagram about it that's not a confirmation. It is not confirmed. It is rumoured, but it's not confirmed. Marcus McGee's been on like a 4-fight win streak since coming into the UFC, I think. He has done very, very well, but he's ranked 13th and Petr Yan is ranked 2. That is... I mean, that's going to take quite a lot of convincing to get Yan to take that fight, when Yan surely would rather fight... I don't know. I don't know if there's many other fighters he hasn't already beat on there. Did he beat Song Yadong already? I think he did, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yan? Yeah, he's already beat Song Yadong. Then there's Sandhagen. He could rematch Sandhagen, but Sandhagen's not going to want that fight. He's fighting for the belt. Then it's Jan v Umar, and it's like, oh, it's a tough one, but maybe he would take that. Figueiredo's out injured. I think he's already beat him. Yeah, there's not many options for Jan, really. So maybe he has to take that fight. I don't know. But it's tricky for Jan. How do you convince people to watch Jan v Merab 2 when he got 50-45 in such devastating,
That's the bottom line,
kind of
that
easy
fight.
fashion?
Mm.
So I don't know.
Okay. Should we...
If he were to go to 145, though, let's just say that Sean O'Malley goes to 145. I don't think he will. I think you're right. I think he stays at 135. But if he did, what do you think of the matchmaking of Sean O'Malley versus Yair Rodriguez?
I think that will be a super fun fight. But, I mean, that's a good match. That's a good matchup.
It's good, right? Like that's better than like he's sticking him against mobs, or even like I think Arnold Allen, I think, would just grapple him up.
Like Arnold's big back would just ragdoll him, but I think Lerona probably want to stand with him, and I think that could be an interesting fight. But I think
Sean will want a bigger name.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see it for Larone's sake, because I think a win like that for Larone would mean a lot. But
people, he's the forgotten man in that division, Lerone Murphy. People forget just the run that he's on, how good he is, and before you know it, that guy's going to be fighting for a belt, and people are going to go like, "Oh yeah, that guy, fuck!" Like, he's what a top fella as well. Should we talk about the co-main?
Let's do it.
Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison. Before we get on to the fight, did you see the image that went up of the before and after the when she was on the scales and then when she was on the scales for the ceremony?
I'm the one that sent it to you. Yeah.
Oh, well.
I'm literally the one that texted you that image.
Did you see it yourself though?
You idiot. Yes, obviously I did see it, Stu.
Yeah. What an element. I mean, that's how underprepared we are. I'm asking you if you've seen something you sent to me.
Fucking hell.
Oh dear.
The lack of kind of like appreciation and respect. I'm actually like out here sending you things going, this will be interesting to talk about. And you just think someone else has done it.
Yeah.
I mean, brutal weight cut. Man, I mean, when she was talking in the cage, she was saying
that TV show, The In-Betweeners. It's brilliant. You should give it a watch, mate. I think you'd like it.
I've heard it's good, actually. I've heard about it. I've never watched an episode. But that weight cut, man, absolutely brutal. She looks like two different people. She said in the cage after the fight that that last pound, because she'd made 136 a couple of times now, which was brutal enough, but she was saying that last pound, that only God could get that off me.
Sweet baby Jesus got that last pound off her, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I mean, it must be so unhealthy, so damaging for your health. I mean, and it just makes you think how many more of these got to go. And I think we'll get onto that in a minute, because I don't think Kayla Harrison is long for the bantamweight division. I think she's probably going to ride. I think she could ride off into the sunset after the Nunes fight, because I just don't see her sticking. I don't think there's anything to stick around for when you're compromising your long-term health by doing that level of weight cut. Is insane.
It looked ridiculous. It looked absolute, and it looked, just. I don't think I'd seen anything like that since maybe Conor. Oh God, what was his name? Alpha Malfire Mendes. That way in, just like
that was bad. Yeah,
freakish. Like where you're staring at it thinking that looks inhumane. And
he looks like his pictures of him on the scale where he doesn't look like Conor McGregor.
Yeah,
he looks like someone else.
But Kayla didn't look like Kayla, because we're so used to seeing her look so hench, and her arms are so big, and I mean we should throw that image up, the before and after. I'm sure most listeners to this have probably seen it anyway, but it is a stark image, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, it looks.
if I
looks
can find
bad.
it, I'll send it to you. You should check it out. It's scary, like it really is. I'll send you a link to that TV show. You should watch that as well. I think you liked it.
Sure. But I mean, the fight itself, it looked like Pena was just struggling from the off. I mean, 2 illegal up kicks, and well done to the ref.
Yeah.
Took a point straight away.
That's
None
what
of this,
refs need to do.
I'll give you a hard warning. They warn you in the back. In the back, they already tell you no low blows, no eye pokes, watch your fingers, no up kicks, all that stuff. Don't grab the fence. So when you get out there, if you do it, it probably should be a point straight away. And that's what this ref did. So good on the ref for taking a point straight away. Not that it made a difference to the outcome of the fight, but it was the right thing to do. Because they looked like they hurt her. She caught her flush twice with these illegal up kicks. So yeah, I mean, other than that, with just 8 seconds left, I think Harrison transitioned from like a head and arm choke to the Kimura. And even though it was locked in with such little time left, Pena had no option but to tap or let her arm snap. So, yeah, man, phenomenal, dominant performance from Kayla Harrison. Exactly what the division needed. What was lovely, before we get on to what's next, what was lovely, I thought, is they both said a little prayer for each other in the cage afterwards. Now, look, I'm not a religious guy. The kind of, constantly thanking God, Jesus, whatever. Yeah, it happens a lot in the UFC. But I feel like with something like this, the fact that there's been some animosity between the two of them and then they end up praying for each other in the cage, I was actually totally fine with it. I was like, I felt like
it looked very like a very personal moment for him, didn't it? And I thought
it did, and there was something quite lovely about it. And I don't know, for me, that's always just one of the great things about this sport is when you get, people are about to go in and fight each other in a cage. Once that fight's done, even if there's been some negativity, animosity, whatever, if there is a common ground that can be found, and if they can, showcase a little bit of love for each other after the fight, I'm actually all for it. And the fact that it happened through prayer, all that stuff, like, again, I'm not a religious guy, but I thought it was a really sweet thing. I quite liked it. I'm here for it. In terms of what is next, we've got the return of the GOAT, the return of Amanda Nunes. I think women's MMA over the last couple of years has, for a lot of people, lacked the sparkle that it had previously. We've gone through the era of Ronda Rousey tearing through the bantamweight division. Then we had Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes. And in the strawweight divisions, we had those fantastic fights between Zhang and Joanna and Rose and people like that coming through, and Andrade as well. Like, we had so many great moments in women's MMA. Shevchenko dominating in flyweight and stuff like that. And over the last couple of years, it sort of feels like it's lost its way a bit. And I think you can see that in the fact that there have been less, I think, bantamweight in particular, women's MMA fights in the UFC than there has been for a long, long time. And now, all of a sudden, with Kayla Harrison as the champion and Amanda Nunes coming back, I feel like people can get really, really excited for both bantamweight women's MMA and just women's MMA in general. Because can you imagine if they make, before the end of the year, arguably 2 of the best female MMA fights of all time? Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes and Zhang Weili versus Valentina Shevchenko. I mean, all of a sudden, almost overnight, we've gone from, the women's divisions just aren't as exciting as they were 2 or 3 years ago, to, oh my God, we've got 2 of the best fights that could be made in not just women's MMA, but in MMA in general. There's not many fights bigger and better, I don't think, than Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. It's
the biggest fight in
I think
women's
it's
MMA
really
right
exciting.
Now. Yeah, and it was great to see.
But I think regardless of gender, I think it would be a massive, massive fight. I know you've got Jones Aspinall, you've got probably Connor versus a broomstick will still obviously do massive numbers. there are big fights out there. Don't get me wrong. They haven't made Ilya versus Islam, Dricus versus Hamzat massive fight, but I think Kayla versus Nunes is up there with the best of them. Probably not quite Jones Aspinall, but Kayla versus Nunes is. I just don't think there's many fights, regardless of gender in MMA, that you'd go, oh, that's better than Kayla versus Nunes. I think that's a huge, huge fight.
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. We should stress as well, performance of the night also went to Kayla and Merab as well. Also got a performance of the night bonus. Do we want to move on to the middleweight?
Well, it's sticking with the Kayla and Nunes fight. Do you think that either woman sticks around with a victory at 135?
Possibly, yeah. You
think they do?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Well,
what's left for either of them to do at 135 for the winner? Why do they stick around?
I don't know. Why do you not think that there's nothing there for them? I mean, the division.
So I think with Kayla,
it is a little flat.
Yeah, it is. It just is. That's just the way it is at the moment. Kayla Harrison with a win has won the UFC belt. She would have had 4 UFC fights if she beats Nunes. Won the belt, defended the belt, and beaten the greatest of all time. Why are you cutting down to 135 to do it again against Ketlin Vieira, Macy Chiasson? Like, why? What's the point?
Legacy, isn't it? It's like, if you want to...
But she's never going to beat Amanda Nunes' title defense run. I don't think she's going to do it. I don't even know that she would beat a Ronda Rousey's title defense run. So I'm not sure what there is to do. You've already achieved it. You've won the belt. You've beaten the GOAT. That's it. I think then you just sail off into the sunset, especially because, as we've mentioned, the weight cuts are so horrific for her that I just think, just don't do that to your long-term health. Just thanks very much. I'm gone. Amanda Nunes, I don't know that she comes back for anyone other than Kayla Harrison.
Oh, yeah, completely.
So if she beats Kayla, does she then just go, well, I did it, bye? In which case, what do you do with that division? What's going on with it? And it also makes you think, well, can you do Nunes versus Harrison at 145?
Possibly. It's not a bad shout.
Like, do you just go, don't cut too much weight? Nunes doesn't need to cut down to 135. You can do 145. Harrison, like 135 is dangerous for you to get down to. Let's just do it at 145. And it's just an immense fight. You don't need the belt attached to it necessarily. I know that there's extra things with the belt. I mean, Nunes never lost her featherweight belt. She could bring that and put that on the line if they wanted. You could do it at 145 just to save Kayla Harrison having to make that weight cut.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else is there for either of them, unless there's a world where the UFC signs Cyborg, but I can't see that. Can't see that happening. Like, that's probably the only fight that I think I'd quite like to see Nunes rematch against. But yeah, saying my internet is unstable. Oh, are you still there, Blake Harrison?
Yeah, you are. You are freezing quite a lot on your internet. I am still here, but you were very frozen.
Oh, that's quite strange. Right, okay.
You're back now,
right now. I'm back. Right.
Shall we move on to Pyfer Gastelum?
Yes. I've got some notes in front of me here, and it says a middleweight feature. That looked like a heavyweight feature when Joe Pyfer got in that octagon. He looked
big dude.
Stacked, didn't he? And I think
he did
quite quickly. I think he showed how powerful he is, because he dropped him like pretty quick into the fight. But then I think that was about as exciting as that fight got, because for me, I don't know who it was that said it, but like if you sort of start teeing off and you drop Gastelum and he stands back up, that's the kind of fight that he likes. That's when he sort of comes into his own. He likes being kind of woke up a little bit, and I'm sure he doesn't like it, but his fight style seems to improve from that. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think like it seemed to sort of wake him up a little bit. I still didn't think he'd done anywhere near enough. I mean, the judges went 29-28, 29-27, 30-27. I didn't give Pyfer all 3 rounds.
No, I gave him easily round 1 because he got the knockdowns. Gave him round 2, and then I gave Gastelum round 3.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and I mean, there's not a lot more to say about that. I think he's an imposing figure, and he said like he had a bit too much respect for Gastelum, and I don't know if that's an excuse. I don't know. You know, I felt he could have finished that in the first round, but then Gastelum's never been. He's never been finished, has he? He's never been KO'd.
He's never been knocked out. He's been finished, but he's never been knocked out, I don't think. Yeah, Gastelum's got one of those granite chins, like a huge head. And yeah, I don't know how much stock to put in a win over Kelvin Gastelum nowadays. And Kelvin Gastelum, to me, he feels like one of the biggest tales of not reaching your potential in the UFC. Like back when he won the Ultimate Fighter and he took Uriah Hall down when Uriah Hall was like, to a lot of people, the next coming of Anderson Silva. And then he fell in love with his hands too much and was just a boxer and very rarely ever used his wrestling. And we haven't seen his wrestling for a long, long time. And it's just the weight issues, man. That Kelvin Gastelum is a welterweight. He's a welterweight that can't be bothered to cut the weight. And I don't think when he cuts down to welterweight, he's like Kayla Harrison, nowhere near it. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not even saying it's comfortable. But he is someone that should be fighting at welterweight. And he decides to not cut that weight and fight at middleweight. And for me, he's always going to be lesser of a fighter because he's giving up so much weight. And I think he's one of those people that just like, had he had the right head on his shoulders, he would have done way more in the UFC than what he's done. And he's still someone that's achieved the feat of fighting for an interim title in one of the greatest fights of all time against Israel Adesanya. But I truly believe he could have either been a champion or fought for an undisputed belt had he just got his head together with cutting the weight and being more disciplined, man. I do think he is one of those kind of cautionary tales for fighters about like trying to live up to your potential and giving yourself every opportunity to succeed in the cage by doing what you need to do out of the cage. And I don't think he has done that through his career, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well said, mate.
Another guy that didn't quite do it in the cage when we had high expectations for him, Patchy Mix.
Oh my
Just
God.
didn't turn up, did he?
It was so boring. So boring. I got in from work.
I don't think Batista was boring. I thought Batista was all right.
No, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about Patchy Mix. And it's like, what is going on with these fighters coming to the UFC with huge expectation from other organisations and just not delivering? And I wonder like how much the UFC have paid to sign Pitbull and Patchy Mix, and are they now going, there's clearly levels to the game here, and have we made a bit of a mistake here? I mean, I got in from work and I stuck the telly on, and just as this fight was starting, I fell asleep and then woke up, and like I literally was dozing in between watching it because it was not holding my attention. It was, I don't know. I was expecting a lot more wrestling from Patchy Mix, and all we see was like Batista just neutralised, all that hype just using leg kicks and boxing and dominating him.
Honestly, he hit him with the same 1-2 about 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
Patchy just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
He seemed so flat-footed. Patchy seemed so flat-footed. And look, don't get me wrong, we aren't people that have watched a huge amount of Patchy Mix in Bellator and the PFL. But we've heard a lot. People have been talking a big game about Patchy Mix. And from the moments we have seen him, we've seen some phenomenal grappling and some really good stuff. But that was not as advertised at all. We've seen before fighters coming over to the UFC from other organizations, even when they've done well in other organizations, and getting the UFC jitters, knowing that it's a much bigger stage, the lights are brighter, more people are going to be watching you. And maybe that played a real factor. And we will see Patchy Mix put together like a 3 or 4 fight win streak going forward because, you know, he's got used to it now. But from that showing, you were like, is this what everyone's been going on about?
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to give credit to Batista. He looked good. I thought Batista looked really, really good. But the real shame of it for Batista, he didn't even get a post-fight interview.
Yeah.
And like that, to me, says a lot about what the UFC think of him. This guy is nowhere near a title shot. He's on a really good run, and he's doing well, but he is nowhere near a title shot because the UFC can't even be bothered to give him a post-fight interview.
Yeah.
So in a fight that was hotly anticipated, it was a fight outside of the main and co-main event, and even slightly above it, people were talking about the Patchy Mix fight.
I don't know
UFC
if
just didn't care.
If
afterwards.
the post-fight interview was more of a reflection on the UFC's view on Bautista, or whether they just thought Patchy Mix was just shit.
Yeah, but that's no reason to not give Batista the post-fight interview, is it? I think it's an indictment of how they see Batista, and I think that he's clearly got a lot of work to do to get in with the brass there and get himself the fights that's going to really move him up the ladder and get to a title shot, because we might be sleeping on a guy that is the best in the division. I mean, I don't think so, but he's someone that can wrestle. He's someone that can strike. He's someone that has got very good cardio. Maybe he's the answer to Merab. But at the moment, we're nowhere near knowing that because I don't know that he's going to get the fights he needs to prove it. So, I don't know. It's a tricky one.
I think it works out. I've just gone through his record, moving on to the welterweight fight on the card. That was Kevin Holland's 34th fight this month, and he looked great. He obviously fought Vicente Luque, locked in that DAS a minute into the second round, and another performance of the night bonus for Kevin Holland. I mean, he's up and down, and with his wins and losses, but he's always game. He always talks a good game as well, and he spoke a really good game in the post fight interview as well, calling out Colby Covington.
Yes, he did. I like that call out. I like it very much. I like the fact that Kevin Holland's out here kind of saying in post fight interviews, "I just want to fight like cab drivers and stuff. I don't give me the easy fights. Give me easy fights." I don't think Kevin Holland has aspirations to be a champion anymore. No. I think he's just like, keep those young killers away from me. I just want to cash my paychecks and fight easy fights. Thank you very much. And you're like, good on you, mate.
and he clearly sees Colby as one of them.
Yeah, I think Colby versus Kevin is a great fight for both guys.
Yeah.
Because it's an easier fight for Colby than maybe like an Ian Gary or someone like that. But Kevin Holland's still a big name, still going to get a lot of traction. If Colby wins, it still might mean something. And for Kevin, it's a great way to beat a guy that a lot of people hate, keeps you ingratiated with the fans. Yeah, and it's probably one of the biggest names you'll have on your win streak or your resume or whatever. So, I think it's a great fight for everyone. More than happy to see them make that fight. This is, as we said in the pre-fight episode, great fight. Looked forward to it. Really great fight. Fun inside the octagon. Is there anything at stake, really? No. So there's not really much to talk about afterwards other than well done, Kevin Holland. And that is about it. Someone who I think has a much bigger future and could hold a belt one day, Josh Van. Looked on fire against Silva. His hands look great. Knocked down in the first round. Silva ate some big shots in the second round as well. Showed real grit and determination to keep coming forward and try and put pressure back on Van. But Van was just too good, man. And in round 3, he got the finish. Josh Van, 23 years old. What is he on, a 4-fight win streak now or something like that? Yeah, I mean, he's just really, really fun, man. 23 years old, very exciting. Great forward pressure, always pushing forward, always trying to throw hands. Yeah, I think the future is very bright for Josh Van. I don't think there's any point in rushing him too much, but he's already ranked. I think, yes, he'll be 12 if he takes Silva's place. Yeah, there's not really much else to say. I think he's just doing very, very well for someone of his age. And hopefully the UFC can matchmake him in a way where he has incremental steps up so that he can keep growing. And there's not some kind of giant leap forward that he has to make where he might get beat and then things fall apart a bit. Let's make it gradual steps forward.
Absolutely. All right. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to speak about from the weekend's card?
Not massively. I mean, Waldo Cortez Acosta won by decision against Spivak. I wasn't closely watching the fight, but I didn't feel like the judges necessarily got it right. I think a 30-27 for Cortez Acosta was kind of insane. But I don't know, other than Spivak's family, that people cared enough. The crowd were booing the result, I think.
It's so degrading, isn't it?
The judges.
Nobody cares. Nobody's watching. Just your mum and dad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the sad truth of it, isn't it? And I think that the one good thing is, as much as I don't think he'd hold a candle to Tom Aspinall at all, Tom Aspinall needs fresh matchups at heavyweight. We're going to talk about. There's been some stuff with Dana White. Well, how long are we running right now?
Right, we need to wrap this one up because we're nearly at the hour, and we're gonna do a Q&A show, aren't we? And we're gonna discuss this as well.
And we're going to discuss what happened at the press conference. Dana White talking about John Jones and Aspinall, but to keep it with Cortez Acosta, I don't think he'd hold a candle to Tom, but it's a fresh potential matchup in the future. He'll be ranked 7th if he takes Spivak's spot. These things need to be done. We need to get that heavyweight division moving, and we need some fresh fighters up the top of that division. That's about it. There's not much else to say.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, so we are going to do another episode. I don't know if we're maybe going to release it next week because Stu Whiffen is abandoning me, going on holiday.
I'm going away in the Joshua camper van. And I can't wait.
Hey, lovely.
Well, look, I'll tell you while we're talking,
we're doing that, or you're doing that.
We are talking 316. So do you know what? If we keep the Q&A to the Q&A, just in case there's any more announcements around John Jones, not that I imagine there will be, or Tom Aspinall, shall we bolt it on the end here? It probably makes more sense to tie in with this show.
Well, how long are we running?
54 minutes.
No, tune in next week.
All right. We'll see you then.
Bye.